Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of What the Field. I'm Emmeline, and today I'm here with our very own Sustainability Director, Cristina Domecq, and with Helena Calvo, Global Brand Project Manager at Too Good To Go. Welcome, Helena.
Thank you. Hello.
So today we're going to be talking about food waste, a topic that is very close to our heart, and one of the reasons actually why crowd farming exists at the end of the day. Not the main reason, but one of the things we're trying to make better in the food supply chain. And well, you at Too Good To Go are obviously an expert. Maybe you could explain a little bit why. So who you are and what Too Good To Go is all about.
Okay, so I'm Helena, as you said before, and I work in the communications and marketing team towards campaigns and projects that help people be aware of the huge problem that food waste is. So hopefully, after today's episode, we can be a little bit more aware of all this issue, and we can tackle it together from the very beginning of the chain until the end. Basically, Too Good To Go exists for one specific reason, which is fight food waste and bring it to the end. And yeah, food waste is a huge problem. So let's break it into tiny pieces.
Yes, I think a lot of people nowadays already have your app downloaded on their phones and are constantly checking out where they can pick up a little Too Good To Go magic bag to take home with them, right?
So in two lines, Too Good To Go basically, as I was saying, fights food waste, but the most common tool that we have is this mobile app that geolocalizes you and helps you know where which food businesses are probably having food waste that night or that day, and you can pick them up, pick those magic bags at a reduced price. It's perfect food. It has been produced the same day. The problem is that for various reasons it has not been sold, and then the next day is probably not going to be offered. So you want to prevent that food to end up in the bin, and we help those businesses to sell this surplus food at a reduced price.
Okay, yeah. I think we are all fans here at Crowd Farming of your application and the services you offer. So before we get into all the complexities of food waste, maybe we should establish the definition, because there we already have the problem, right? So how do we even define food waste? How do you at Too Good To Go define food waste?
Well, that's a very good question, and actually I think no one can really answer it because there's not consensus about what food waste is, and that's a huge problem itself, because if we cannot even define what food waste is, how are we gonna be able to tackle it or measure it or put some best practices? It's very difficult. So countries, companies, governments, public, everyone who is involved in the food waste, in facing the food waste problem, first needs to agree about what food waste is. I think we can more or less agree that it's good food that ends up in the bin instead of ending up in a stomach, let's say. But there are some parts of the definition that may be discussed, such as what is food waste? It's I don't know. It's the bone of the meat, part of the food waste. It's the eggshell food waste or not, because in the end, some people may use this for some reasons, but this is not meant to be eaten.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some blurred lines in there.
So could we say that for Too Good To Go, food waste is the food that is meant for human consumption?
Yeah, ends that should be eaten and enjoyed, most important, but it's ending up in the bin.
Okay, so then for this podcast, we're gonna go with this definition of food waste. I think
Agree.
it's a good one, unless Chris is against it.
No, totally. I believe food waste is around that. We have a separation between food loss and food waste. Inside that huge definition, a lot of times people talk about food waste, and food loss is included in that one.
Mm-hmm.
But the way we see it, and I think Helena agrees, is that until retail, we call that food loss, and it's kind of, I believe all food waste kind of happens behind the scenes, but food loss is sometimes not even accounted for. For example, we can see in primary production, so in the field, you can see some food loss that doesn't even enter the yield of production, because it's things that are just left in the field and no one is saying, okay, I left this amount of kilograms in the field. So it can happen due to all that management that it's not addressed.
How much would you say does food loss account for? So the food waste, I guess, in the origin of food production.
So the numbers I have, and maybe Elena correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of 50-50. So kind of 50 is happening at the consumer side and 50 is happening until it reaches consumption. Of course, and I think Elena has more to expand on this, but of course the lines again are very blurred, and these are not these are super related, and what happens and what is decided beforehand can impact, of course, what happens afterwards.
Yeah, and probably also data that is very hard to get because no one is going to count the
and
leftover, I don't know, onions on someone's
that's
field,
the problem,
right?
as Christina was saying, some of these kilos of food are not even like in the system, but they are actually like being lost because of numerous reasons. Maybe because it's not big enough, perfect enough, shiny enough, but it's good food. It should be eaten, but it's not even in the system. So the numbers are super blurry. Some people count with this situation, like these specific numbers, some don't. And that's a discussion as well.
Yeah. So, Christina, what would you say are the main causes of food loss?
So one big reason of food loss is in primary production is food that is left on the countryside, and this happens many times, obviously, because the farmer is not the price that they're going to get for the food they're selling is not enough to collect it. So what happens is, why am I going to go and pick this product if it's going to cost me more than what I'm going to sell it for? That's one big one that many times is not accounted for. It just drives productivity down. So you're saying per hectare, I'm getting this amount of kilos of tons, and you're not counting the amount that you're just not picking. And then the other one is another one that we try to raise awareness on the farmer and on the consumers, not just in the consumer side, is ugly food. So not always ugly, it might be a bit smaller or a bit different to what we're used to. So oranges don't look all the same, they're different, and we're trying to raise awareness also on our farmers that whatever they would eat, that goes on the box. Because it's not that it looks this size, it's not that it looks this shape, it's just if you can eat it, then the consumer is going to eat it too. And we're raising awareness on that side, but the farmer has to put it on the box. So that's another reason.
Yeah, versus in the traditional system, as you all know, the food usually looks the same. So the apples are perfectly round and shiny and
they are
spotless.
Not, but we tend to believe that they are.
Yes, exactly. So then
That's
any apple that is really small or that has maybe some superficial issue is discarded by the buyers from the traditional chains, like supermarket chains, etc. No?
Exactly. So what we're trying to do is train the farmer on what is good to ship and what is not, because there's things that might seem superficial but can end up spoiling the whole box until it gets to Germany, for example. So we try to train them on this is not going to last, and this is going to make the whole box go to waste,
and then causing even more waste.
Exactly. And this is superficial, and it's a little mark of this, and it's no problem.
Yeah. Okay. And so Helena, what would you say is the main cause of food waste, like actual food waste? So from the point where the food has already been produced and then sold somewhere?
I think this is another of the big questions that we have, the question marks, because if we would know like one specific spot, then we would like just press the key and then find a solution. But I think it's the whole system that is pushing us through like this like food consumption. I think it's we can agree that the food consumption system is quite broken nowadays. It's not fair. It's not well structured. It's not efficient. So we are wasting more than one third of the food. And just with a fourth of this one third, we could be feeding all the people that don't have like proper access to food. So it's not a matter of producing more and more. It's just a matter of being efficient and like distributing that food like in an even way. At Too Good To Go, we kind of stick to 3 A's, like 3 words that start with an A to kind of remember what brings us like with this whole food waste problem. One of them is abundance. We have like too much food. It's impossible. Like it's too much. You go to a supermarket and you have like 1,000 types of yogurt, 1,000 formats, different brands, and there's no way that all these yogurt can be consumed in the lifespan of a yogurt in the shell. So that's a problem. The abundance, and we got used to it. So it's we don't like to go to a supermarket and see kind of half empty, not even empty, but half empty. It's like, oh, this supermarket is not well prepared for me. We
Not
want them
well
shiny
stocked.
and with abundance.
And
right?
you want to have everything available at all times,
Yeah.
no matter if it's the season or not.
Exactly. That's it. And then the other problem is cause it's the affluence, because we have something at home. This is like a tiny example, but we have something at home. I always talk about this mac and cheese tupper in the fridge, but it's Friday and you fancy some Netflix and pizza, so you order pizza because you can pay for it. You know it's not a big deal. Then you get like you forget, or you don't want to remember about your mac and cheese, and then next day this has gone bad. Why don't we eat that mac and cheese? It's because we can afford not to eat it.
Yeah.
It's I'm being very superficial here, but you understand what,
More or
like,
less.
if we only had that mac and cheese, we would eat it. Like, that's it. We won't allow it to go to waste. Right.
Following that thought, would you say that in less developed countries or third world countries, less food waste occurs because people cannot afford to waste their food?
Well, I think this is very cultural, and I think at least at home, like my grandma has gone through a post-war, and she knows that no one can even think about wasting a tiny piece of bread, and this is because she was through that starving like moment. And this is very cultural. And yes, of course, if you are lacking resources, or you don't know when it's gonna be the next time you eat, you're gonna make sure to eat the whole of what you have.
So is it fair to say that the global third of food wasted is mostly wasted in first world countries and Western parts of the world?
Not really, not exactly, since the difference between food loss and food waste that we were discussing before occurs in different countries. Some of them are more producers. Maybe they are not such industrialized, so the processes are less efficient, and maybe there's much food loss in the beginning of the chain, whereas in the last parts of the chain it's like less food waste. But on the contrary, in some other countries it's the other way around. So it's not really like exactly. I think it's a global problem, and we need to tackle it as it is, like global and very fragmented. So it happens all over the planet.
And has so many factors behind it. I mean, I guess if you're in a producing countries, I don't know, for example, Western Africa, the electrification rate is very low, so they don't have freezers or fridges. So I'm guessing if they work with fresh food, it's really hard if they don't sell it on time then to store it. For example, so there are many tiny reasons that make up the whole big number of the 1/3 of all food produced is wasted, which is really a tragic number, right?
Yeah, it's huge
at the end of the day.
Well, I have the third day. I was like, someone may be asking, like, there's the third, and it's super easy one. It's the association or the dissociation, but we stick to the A to remember. It's because we don't really know where the food is coming from, all the resources, the processes that the food needs to get to our hands. And also we don't know, we don't associate all the impact of throwing it away, or we don't even know how the waste is treated, where this banana that I'm just like throwing away ends up. We haven't seen a landfill because it's hidden. We don't know how it's managed, and it's everything just like on the wild side, like something happens at night and they pick up all the trash in a truck, and you don't see anything because it's just better to close your eyes and don't know about it. So this association or dissociation is like very important as well in the consumer part.
Yeah.
That's funny, because for us that's very important. We say that a lot of us and a lot of kids and people have told us believe that food grows in supermarkets, and we're trying to bring it to them that the story of the food and who's producing it, to actually value it more and differentiate where it's coming from, who's producing it, instead of seeing that perfectly round shaped fruit all looks the same. And I think that's one. And the other one is, we think we take the trash outside and it magically disappears.
Yeah.
And it has a still long journey to go through.
Yeah. What is interesting for me, or I think for a lot of people, is that supermarkets and restaurants and cafes, all of these businesses, seem to throw away the food that has reached the best before date, the point of consumption, instead of donating it. How come? How come we're not donating, or the businesses are not donating the food that is left over, like the surplus?
Well, I think actually nowadays more and more like supermarkets or food businesses already have in place plans for food donation. The problem is that not all kinds of food can be donated. Some of them are highly perishable, so by the time it gets to a final consumer, this will be already like wrong. Some even like are not suitable for donation because of lack of traceability. They need to be refrigerated, and maybe the NGO close to the supermarket that picks up that food don't have the ability of keeping that food refrigerated until the moment comes. So there's a lot of reasons why. That doesn't mean that the food needs to be wasted. I mean, that's why, for example, here comes Too Good To Go as a complementary way of managing that potential waste. Some of it can be donated. Some of unfortunately there's much waste, so there's enough food waste for everyone here, and that's super sad to say, but that's the reality. Even with Too Good To Go, we need to work very closely, for example, with supermarkets, to truly understand what's the nature of the products that they are potentially throwing away, to better find the best solution, and then help them donate some, put some in magic bags for Too Good To Go. But here, for me, what is more important is we have two massive problems here. One is people who don't have proper access to food insecurity, let's say here, and the other one is food waste. We need to understand that those massive problems need to be tackled separately. Of course, there can exist synergies, and we can kind of solve one with another, but there's no reason why food should be overproduced, and there's no way we can understand how people are not having proper access to food, and that those people need to be empowered and need to have enough resources to enter in the regular system, go shopping as you and I do. They don't need to live waiting for surplus food to happen in the supermarkets, and that's very important also to understand. But I think those food bank systems are great to implement. Sometimes it's we need to make the perfect match with those food businesses to help them.
Yeah. So one part is the social side, but another part, which is also very important when it comes to food waste, is the environmental impact. So I think the environmental impact is all the more tragic looking at the food loss side of food waste. Christina, maybe you could explain a little bit why.
So basically, for me, we have two sides on this. Basically, if we're producing 20% in Europe or 30% in the world more food that we are going to use, that's 30% more emissions of the agri-food supply chain that we're emitting, or water that we're consuming to produce those goods. But also from the other side, you have you have the emissions of that food going to waste to landfills, for example. So and we know our recycling systems and our waste management systems don't still work how they should, and we as consumers are not recycling maybe at the potential that we could. So this, for example, in the case of food, there's a lot of organic that, if not separated correctly and if not composted correctly, it goes to the regular landfill and creates a lot of methane emissions that, if not managed correctly, they can have a lot of impact in the environment. So I think we're producing too much, so more emissions, and that has to be managed lately. And if not correctly managed, that can increment a lot of the emissions. Yeah.
Okay. So why can we not manage better? Like, why can businesses, brands, restaurants, supermarket organize themselves better so that to avoid this situation? Can they not simply calculate how much food they're gonna be needing, how much food they're gonna be selling, to at least not lose so much food at that point?
And Elena, I'm going to add to this. Isn't this costing them money?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, this is all nonsense. I mean, no one can stand for food waste, saying like, yeah, but it's okay for the planet. No, it's not. But it's cheaper. No, it's not. I mean, in fast fashion, people can say like, I cannot afford, I don't know, another brand. Let's talk about the value of
Yeah,
that
course.
suit. But in that case, it's like not good for economics, not good for the social part, not good for the environment. So it's nonsense. The big question here is one more. We have big questions here today, but it's like, how did we end up here? Like, I think the whole system, as I was saying, it's broken in that sense, and we are producing more food the one we need. We are, yeah. I think I was talking about affluence and abundance before. It's it. I mean, we have all these kind of products, all these flavors, all these like formats, and we don't actually need that much. But
Yeah.
since we want to have everything every available at every moment, then this is unsustainable in terms of matching demand and offer and demand. And that's where surplus comes, because we tend to see now that something which is over packed with plastic, it's not okay. So we visually see that, whoa, there's like 3 plastic bags for 1 banana. This is definitely not okay. But still, we go to a bakery 10 minutes before they close, and we want to see everything shiny and recently baked for us. And we we don't understand that this cannot happen because this shop is about to close. The bakery needs to get rid of all that, and this is going to waste. But still, we want to have everything available. So I want this croissant, or now I want this sandwich.
And
Yeah.
maybe it's
Yeah.
like what you were saying before, that maybe it is cheap to it's better to have that abundance in the supermarket and having it being very shiny, so people buy more, and that's you get more benefit out of that the cost that food waste means for that supermarket, right?
Yeah, especially because they buy in bulk, maybe, and so they come with these offers, buy 2 and get 3, for example, and this ends up being wasted probably at home, because you cannot consume like 3 packages of whatever in the lifespan of the product.
Yeah.
It's okay for them, it's not okay for us, and that's why I come again with the numbers of food waste are a bit tricky, because sometimes we count for food waste at a consumer level, but the decisions have been made all over the chain, and they end up like repercuting in the last chain, in the last part of the
that's
chain.
a good point, because there's always this almost sensation that households are responsible for food waste, and people feel so bad if they throw away one little thing, when on the other end of the supply chain tons and tons of food is being thrown away, or they're receiving food maybe that has been traveling for weeks, not been stored properly, and then you buy it and it just you have no chance of cooking all the lettuce. Making a salad with all the lettuce you bought in your 2 for 3 deal, because it's not in such a good state animiore, maybe, so you're not able to like make it in time, basically,
But it's a chain, so everything is connected, and we tend to analyze everything like step for like producers, farms, manufacturers, retailers, households. This is not like this. I mean, everything is connected. Maybe one action that I'm doing at home, it's like being already almost made for me in previous steps of the chain. So we need to see a global picture of that. And when we offer solutions or think about solutions, think them also transversally, not only in one stage, because probably it has like causes and consequences beyond that.
And it gets so complex that what you were saying before of buy 2 get 3, we're making it cheaper for the consumer to buy that, and at the same time, if the farmer needs to sell a lot of food and increase the production because they're going to sell really cheap. They're going to use methodologies that are not very sustainable because they will just focus on production because of the low selling prices. So it's all kind of, we're making consumers buy more and waste more, and at the same time we're making producers produce more and at cheaper prices. So it's kind of amazing how it is all connected. Yeah,
it's nonsense. Honestly, like
Yeah.
that's the only explanation I can think of.
What role do you think should policy play here? Because I mean, I know that in France recently they passed a law saying that supermarkets, I think they have to donate a part of their
Yeah, I mean
food that is like the
it
surplus.
has some years already, and in Spain, the legislation is coming. It's in the process. In Italy, they have also some donation policies regarding this. I think policies are important. Regulations tend to come late because they come with when the problem in that case it's like huge and it's obvious and they are late with this. But it comes to, I mean, it comes for everyone. So even if you believe that this is important or not, the policy is going to apply to you. So even you face a fine or some, let's say, I don't know, like yeah, let's hope it would be fine financial, like facing. But if not, at least you know that you are against the law or you're against legislation. And this, like, we all should be like aiming for that, pushing that kind of legislation, because food waste is beneficial to no one actually, like if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think are the biggest players or the main players that need to act?
Well, I
to
think
reduce this?
everyone has to play a part here. Like food waste, as we were saying, is a very like it's a broken problem. It's huge, but it's invisible because you think like, I don't waste that much at home. I mean, what's like some
Yeah.
lentils, a piece of bread, a banana that got like super old and brown. Well, but this is like something, yeah, and it can happen, of course. I mean, no one is like a monster for this to happen, and we need to take care of that, but it can happen. The problem is that it's happening to everyone at every household. And then a supermarket is, it's just like in their like measures, it's just bunch of kilos, it's couple of whatever, three of that, five of, it's happening in every corner, in every food business. And if you start adding and adding layers, this is huge.
Yeah.
Like it's huge, but it's invisible because everyone just sees a tiny piece of it, not the whole picture. And that's what we try to do at Too Good To Go, like point at the big picture, but at the same time breaking it into pieces. Because if you talk about, I don't know how many tons of millions of tons of food wasted annually, people's like, well, it's huge. But if you would change that number for another one, it would sound the same to me. So honestly, we need to break those numbers, turn them into equivalences. For example, we say throwing away a banana is like having your shower open, like draining for 10 minutes. Okay, I would never do that with the shower, right? So
Yeah.
why do I like
Why do I
waste a
waste
banana?
Yeah.
You
or
know?
the thing of the emissions of food waste, that
Yeah.
it would be the third country, the third emitting country if it was a country, right? So
Yeah.
that those numbers
I always ask to people, like, when you think about a cost of greenhouse emissions, what do you think of? Like, give me a picture. Sometimes they say factories, but many times they say cars, traffic jam. Yeah, that's true. We have this picture of a lot of like cars smoking. And actually, like food waste, the greenhouse emissions of food waste equals of all road transportation in the globe. So if we tend to think about cars in a traffic jam, or smoking pipes in the as a cause of greenhouse emissions, we should also think about food waste. But the picture is very difficult to get because there's no picture of it.
There's no smoke coming out
There's
of
no
your
smoke,
brown banana.
Yeah. We should try to picture it somehow.
Yes. Can you, I mean, we said it's really hard to quantify actual food waste because of the definitions and because it's really hard to track, etc. But do you have like an approximate idea of Too Good To Go's impact in terms of food waste reduction?
Yeah, I mean, we also need to focus in the positive part, because food is being wasted, but Too Good To Go, for example, is saving food. Crowd farming is doing great steps towards like bringing food together with people. So I think in all this atmosphere of climate crisis, I think we are more and more aware of all what needs to be done, but also we need to celebrate steps, even if tiny. So
Yeah.
let's talk about this as well. So we are in 17 markets now with Too Good To Go. The app is global, so you can use it all over the countries where we are present. We have a huge net of food businesses that join Too Good To Go and offer their surplus food at a reduced price. It's more than 177,000 stores all over the globe. We have more than 68 million users that are registered in the app and
Wow.
in daily like and save meals, which is like, if you think about it, it's more than the
Huge.
population of Spain, so it's huge. It's committed people who want to have like this step like towards the food waste problem, right? And then in terms of magic bags, since the beginning of Too Good To Go, we have saved 180 million magic bags. If we would say that one magic bag is 1 kilo, so you can have like more than 180 million kilos. It's an average because it's not the same like saving a bag of fruits and veggies, which is very heavy, than sushi. But yes, that's an average.
But at the end of the day, the more successful you get, are you not putting in danger your own business model? I mean, if your mission is to fight food waste, but at the same time you raise awareness to fight food waste, are you not fighting against your own business model in a way?
Yeah, in fact, that's a very good question, and yeah, it's true. So our vision is a planet with no food waste. So in the end, a planet where
With
Too Good
no
To Go,
good.
yeah, where Too Good To Go would not be necessary anymore. But that's what it is. The problem is that the system is very complex now, and we still have we still have tons of miles of work to do before we reach that point. Even like the food businesses that work with us, still they cannot start decreasing the number of packs that they are offering because they are not even aware of the whole picture of food waste that they may be having. So in the end, maybe they offer 3 bags a day, but they have more than 3 bags of surplus food. It's just that they're starting. So we still need to get them like save 4, 5, 6, 7 magic bags a day. And then when we have all this picture and we can manage all this, then we can start preventing it, which is like the very first step. And that's also what we do at Too Good To Go, raise awareness in the very beginning to avoid that food to be even generated. Like, we don't want to be there to save it through the app, but we want to try to tackle this from the very beginning.
Yeah. I mean, as we said, you're raising a lot of awareness. You have a lot of campaigns going on. I think maybe you can get into that a little bit. And one of the main things that Chris and I were curious about is actually this really big misconception that there is around the best before date.
Yes. Actually, those are like this is one of the big confusion, misconception that causes a lot of like food waste all
Yeah.
over the chain. But mostly like when it gets to consumers' hands, people don't really understand. They see a date written in the package and they don't, like, they say, okay, this is out of date, so I throw it away. What many people don't know is that there are two kinds of dates. It's the use by date and the best before date. Used by is used by. So when the date comes, you need to have like eaten that or frozen it, in case that, for example, it's chicken, then you are putting the pause on the life of that chicken. But when we talk about best before, the words like in English are quite clarifying. It's just best before that date, but it doesn't mean that after that date that's going to be bad. It's
In Spanish
Or
it's
poison you
consumo
were, yeah.
preferente.
preferente.
Yeah,
I
consumir
don't even know in
preferentemente.
German or in French.
I cannot help you.
Me neither. Sorry.
But I mean, I may know it written, but I wouldn't dare to pronounce, to be honest.
Yeah.
So the thing is that producers put that date on their own criteria because they believe that that's the best moment until when you can eat that product. After that date, the product may suffer some changes in terms of texture, smell, taste, but in terms of just like being more acid, more sweet, changing, being like I don't know, but it's just superficial. It doesn't mean that it's wrong and it's gonna be bad for your health.
And it's not just conserves, because you would think it's more like
No.
marmalades and all of these types and canned goods. But at the end of the day, actually, what surprises me, that's things like yogurt, like things that you actually keep in the fridge.
Most of the products that
or
we have at
eggs.
home are best before. So
Yeah.
they're just like the most perishable foods are the ones who are labeled with use by. So the problem here is, okay, when the date has gone by, can I eat the product? Yes, you can. But how I know? Is it forever? Like, can I eat a piece of bread of packaged bread like 3 weeks after? Well, the good part of it is that we are all able to identify if the product is good or not, and we don't need to study hard for that. We just need to test something very simple, which is like look, smell, and taste, and that's the whole basis of our campaign that we have at Too Good To Go. Look, smell, taste, don't waste. If we look at the product and it's moldy, then don't eat it. I mean, it's quite obvious, but if it's not moldy, then go to the next step. Moldy, or let's imagine whatever like obvious reason for not eating it. If we smell it and it smells, I don't know, ugly, sour, then let's also get rid of it. It's too late. And if it smells good, then it's important to try it, because it happened to me. I need to admit, with a small part of coconut milk. I made a curry and I left like for tomorrow, but it was not tomorrow. I went the weekend. I went the weekend out, and then when I went back, it looked great. It smelled great, but then when I tasted, it was spicy even in my
And
my
it's
tongue.
obvious, right, Elena?
It's super obvious. Like I was like, look, smell, and taste. I mean, it's super basic. And then I was even pouring it in the curry. So like, okay, no, let's taste it. And it was spicy in the tongue. It was not a good feeling. And you know how the product feels in your mouth, and it should smell when it's good. So you definitely know when it's wrong. If it's too late, it's too late. You will learn for the following, and it's not gonna happen to me. I will freeze that coconut milk when it happens to me again. But then the problem is we don't trust our senses. We tend to think, okay, no, let's throw it
If
away.
someone's telling me here, I should throw it away.
Yeah. But then we should definitely trust our senses, and we could be avoiding tons and tons of food waste at home.
I think a lot of people just see the date and they throw it away by default. I've seen it even like with people I know, that they saw the yogurt that they had this date, that they don't even check what kind of date, they might not even know. And it's like, okay, no, it's one day after this, I'm going to throw it away. They don't even open it, they don't even check.
We always say, like, it's not like Cinderella, it's not 12 in the evening and then this yogurt is magically wrong. I mean, this yogurt doesn't know the date. Even if it's Christmas, you are not going to say Merry Christmas to the yogurt. So the yogurt doesn't know the date. Just trust your senses. Use also the common sense. I think that's important. But once again, we are disconnected to the food. We are disconnected to the process.
You don't know what happens to a yogurt a few days past, so you don't know.
So we try to raise awareness on that, and that's what we are doing. We are partnering up with producers to. We have designed this label that says, "Before you throw me away, look, smell, taste, don't waste." We print it to the products that have best before date, and it's quite visual, right? You see that, you see an eye, a nose, and a mouth, and it's like, okay, what's going on here? Okay, maybe I shouldn't throw this away. And we have this in thousands of millions of products all over Europe, and it's helping people at home. And this is one of the examples of decisions or processes that start in the very beginning of the chain, but the repercussion and the causes of not knowing or the misinformation is not helping people to take good decisions at home. So it may end up in food waste at the household level, but it's not a consumer problem if they are not well informed. So we need to help, and we need to look at as I was saying before, the causes and the consequences beyond that hotspot.
What do you use Too Good To Go for the most, Christina? Because I know you use it, no?
Yeah, I love it for flowers, actually.
Flowers?
Yeah, I have a store
So not
really close by.
food waste.
But I know, but that was, of course, about food waste I knew long ago. But now that I moved to a new home, I have a store that every Friday posts their flowers in there, and I think it's really nice starting
it's
the
also
weekend with flowers.
and it's kind of romantic that we also welcome flowers.
I
Flower
hate
shops.
cut flowers because it's kind of, for me, it's
A
kind of,
waste
I
also,
prefer
no?
to buy plants, but when it's going to waste, I think
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
yeah,
So
that's
I
it.
It's a
discovered
good
that
idea.
one.
I
Yeah.
have to copy you on that.
Yeah.
And Helena, you as an insider, do you have any like?
Yeah, I love fruits and veggies
Fruits and
because I
veggies,
like
okay.
cooking, and they offer me like this. Okay, this like canvas. I have this. What can I cook this week with this? Sometimes it's like I have to prove myself because I don't know. I've eaten artichokes many times, but I maybe not at home. Maybe my grandma was cooking them, or maybe in a restaurant. So the first time I received like a bunch of artichokes in a magic bag was like, okay, now I need to face that moment. I'm going to cook artichokes. So I like these
Challenges.
Yeah, and to build a menu upon that.
As a last question, maybe, do you have any top tips on avoiding food waste?
Just to go.
You're still good to go?
No. But
No,
at
I mean,
home, I
it's a tip.
think it's quite difficult also because it's like pointing people like you're doing this wrong. You should do that, and I think there's a lot of things we could be taking into account. I think what we need is more time. It doesn't depend on us. Actually, it's the whole system, and we are rushed, and we don't have time for planning. We don't have time for thinking. We don't have time for cooking, for enjoying, consuming. It's like everything is so fast that I think this is the most. But if you take one moment to think in, I don't know, sometimes you are just sharing meals and there are 3 olives that no one wants to eat. You can take, like, it's almost the same moment just to put them on a small, like, container in your fridge and eat those. Even 3 olives, that's fine. You can
The
keep
thing
them
is,
for
you
later.
then forget about these olives because they're like in the back of the fridge with the hundreds of
Yeah, you have to put
peppers.
the things that you need to. This is a good tip as well. Like first in, first out, as they do in the food businesses. Things that
Yeah.
enter the first or need to leave the first as well. So you can organize your fridge in terms of like what you need to eat before. Just make it easy and put it like super handy.
I like that idea. I had never thought of that, but it makes a lot of sense. First in, first out. Like reorder your fridge. And Christina, do you have any?
I agree with Helena. I think if we had time, it would be easier because I think more and more we're valuing that cooking process or that sourcing the what we're going to cook. And that process is beautiful, going to the market or buying through card farming and getting the source, like really good sources and knowing the history of the product. And that paying for that value, I think, makes you value it more and thinking a lot and planning what you're going to do with that. When you don't have time, it might be a bit more difficult. So maybe for me at home, it's putting it into the freezer before it goes bad. Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you can, there's
Use
products
your
that you
freezer.
cannot.
Yeah,
but
freezer is a great ally, I
Yeah,
would say,
true.
in general.
if you prepare, you cut, I don't know, prepare it for different portions. I think that it's a good ally for planning. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the long term.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. I already got inspired from you guys, so maybe someone else will.
What
as
about
well.
you?
I think my top tip is actually not because I have the really bad, or I had the really bad habit, which I think comes from my mom actually, to put the blame somewhere. She's gonna
Hello,
hate me
Mom.
for this, yeah. But she's always scared that people are gonna be left. I think it's a mom thing. She always gives too much food. No, it's like she's always scared that someone is gonna be left hungry, so she buys way too much. And when I moved out, I also started like, I hated the sight of an empty fridge type of thing. I think a lot of people have this paranoia,
Yeah.
and after a pandemic even more, you know. So I think my top tip would be to like have some restraint. The classic, don't go food shopping hungry. I think a lot of people then buy a lot of things that's famous, but us in general, like it's better, I think, to go drop by the supermarket after work one day if you really need something,
Yeah.
and just try to not overbuy.
And then you get creative with whatever you have in the fridge, because I
Yeah.
had some great experiences just like, okay, I have nothing in my fridge. Then you start like in the cupboard and in the fridge and in the freezer, and then you end up with a pretty like good meal in the end, right? It's not
Yeah.
that.
That's true. But if you don't like to cook so much, I guess then it's harder.
Helena likes challenges. I'm
Yeah,
seeing.
Yeah.
and cooking. I mean, maybe we should share some recipes that could help. I mean, we're trying to do that on
Too
our
Good To Go
vlog,
has
but-
some really good ebooks, and they are not super strict. It's just like having, of course, you have the recipe and the idea, but then it's just about like forget about this and take just like something that you have in the fridge instead of, I don't know, leeks, just have onions. It's okay, you know.
Yeah.
We need to be flexible in that. And Too Good To Go has some good. You can check them online and download the ebook.
Okay, perfect.
Will do.
Well, thank you very much to
Thank
both
you.
of you.
Thank you.
And thank you for our audience for being with us for another episode and accompanying us on this field trip to the world of food waste. And yes, until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.